What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk Tuah and spit on that thing. You get me?
I don't get you. I think you gotta demonstrate.
Hawk Tuah, spit on it. Spit on it.
It's something you definitely want to address, but I couldn't at the time because of like all the legal stuff going on. I was in an open investigation, going to see the FBI, and then the SEC reached out. And I think somebody else reached out too, but they ended up not wanting anything after everything else was shut down. I had to just sit there and let people call me a scammer. Because, I mean, I couldn't sit there and defend myself and tell them what happened. I was told not to say nothing.
Yeah.
How does someone go from clocking shifts in a Tennessee factory to standing on stage with Shaquille O'Neal to being accused of wiping out millions of dollars from her own fans, all in only 6 months? This isn't just another internet fad. It's the rise and collapse of Haley Welch, the girl the world nicknamed Tuah. One offhand comment in June 2024 catapulted her from obscurity to stardom, a phrase that spread like wildfire across TikTok, Instagram, and even professional sports. But the same viral spark that made her famous also lit the fuse for one of the fastest implosions in recent memory. Because behind the memes and the merchandise, there was a darker story waiting to explode. Shady partnerships, a failed cryptocurrency launch, and accusations that turned her from America's sweetheart into a cautionary tale. And the most shocking part, it all unraveled in just half a year. Like and subscribe to Stars and Hypes for more, and let's continue. The story began on a humid afternoon in early June 2024, when two small YouTubers set out to film lighthearted street interviews in Tennessee. They tossed out playful, slightly provocative questions, expecting awkward laughs and nervous shrugs. But one of their interviews would deliver something no one could have predicted. A 22-year-old factory worker named Haley Welch stepped into frame. She carried herself with an easy confidence, a heavy southern accent, and a sharp sense of humor. Instead of freezing up or dodging the question, she delivered an answer so bold and unexpected that the two interviewers were left stunned. The raw clip, barely half a minute long, was uploaded to TikTok that evening. At first, it looked like just another funny moment on a crowded feed. But overnight, something strange happened. People began clipping the video, reposting it, and repeating Haley's words in their own videos. By the next morning, millions of users had seen it. Within a week, the phrase had become impossible to escape. It was stitched into memes, shouted in gaming streams, plastered across Instagram Reels, and replayed endlessly on YouTube Shorts. This wasn't a slow burn, it was a digital explosion. The catchphrase became so recognizable that professional athletes were imitating it mid-game, and celebrities began referencing it at public events. Suddenly, the internet had crowned a new star, not a polished influencer or a trained performer, but an ordinary young woman, whose casual remarks struck lightning in a bottle. Haley Welch, once just another name in a small Tennessee town, had been rebranded overnight by the internet as the Tuah girl. Strangers shouted her nickname in public. Fan accounts dedicated entirely to her popped up on social platforms. For a brief moment, she wasn't just a person, she was a phenomenon. And unlike many who stumble into viral fame, Haley understood what this moment meant. She wasn't about to let the spotlight pass her by. She was ready to seize it. Before her sudden rise, Haley Welch lived a quiet and ordinary life. She worked at a bed spring factory in her hometown of Belfast, Tennessee, clocking long shifts that rarely changed from one day to the next. Her coworkers knew her as funny and outspoken, but outside those walls, she was just another young woman trying to make ends meet. That all changed within 2 weeks of her viral moment. The internet's obsession with the Tuah girl gave her something she had never experienced before: opportunities. Suddenly, she was fielding interview requests. Her face was being shared on millions of screens, and brands were calling with offers for her. Recognizing the chance to turn a fleeting joke into a business, Haley made her first bold move. She quit her factory job. Instead of settling for 15 minutes of fame, she partnered with a small apparel company called Fathead Threads. Together, they launched a line of hats and t-shirts featuring her catchphrase. The demand was staggering. Within days, thousands of hats sold out, including a premium signed edition priced at $50 a piece. Reports estimate that the collaboration generated more than $60,000 in revenue in just a few weeks. But merchandise was only the beginning. Her sudden fame attracted attention from established stars. Country singer Zach Bryan invited her on stage during a packed concert in Nashville, where she performed her signature phrase in front of thousands of cheering fans. Not long after, she appeared at a DJ event with Shaquille O'Neal, a surreal moment that confirmed her leap from viral meme to mainstream celebrity. Behind the scenes, managers were circling. Haley eventually signed with a Penthouse, a talent management company promising to transform her viral notoriety into long-term success. With their guidance, she expanded into new ventures, including a podcast and small entertainment appearances. Every move pushed her further away from the factory floor and deeper into the unpredictable world of celebrity. For a while, it looked unstoppable. In less than 2 months, she had gone from anonymity in a Tennessee warehouse to standing alongside some of the biggest names in music and sports. Millions followed her every post, and her name seemed cemented as the internet's newest cultural icon. But what made Haley famous was also what made her fragile. Viral fame burns bright, but it doesn't always last, and while she was busy building a brand, the first cracks in her empire were already starting to form. Haley's rise wasn't just fast, it was dizzying. 1 month she was punching the clock at a factory, the next she was shaking hands with celebrities and selling out merchandise online. But sudden fame brings more than money and attention. It brings people eager to turn a viral sensation into a marketable product. That's where her management company, The Penthouse, came in. They promised to take Haley's newfound notoriety and mold it into something lasting. To them, the raw Tuah girl wasn't enough. They saw potential for a brand, one that could sign endorsement deals, launch products, and even break into mainstream entertainment. So the transformation began. Her Instagram, once filled with messy, relatable snapshots, shifted into something that looked more like a professional influencer's feed. Lighting was perfect. Outfits were coordinated. Every photo was edited to fit a consistent aesthetic. Her captions, which had once been clumsy but funny, now read like polished slogans. To an outsider, it might have looked like progress, but to the fans who had fallen in love with Haley's unfiltered energy, it felt like something was being lost. The girl who had made the internet laugh with her blunt honesty was slowly being replaced by a carefully packaged version of herself. The reaction was immediate. Comments on her posts began to shift. Some fans said she no longer seemed real. Others accused her of selling out or letting her managers pull the strings. Memes popped up comparing the old, unpredictable Haley to the new, polished one, calling her a puppet of the industry. What had made her relatable was vanishing, and the more curated her image became, the more distant she felt. But behind the criticism, Haley was doubling down. She wasn't satisfied with being a meme. She wanted to prove she could be more than a viral clip. Her team pushed her into new ventures, including the launch of a podcast called Tuah, where she began interviewing guests and trying to establish herself as a personality. With the right names on the show, her managers believed she could transition into being a media figure rather than just an internet joke. She also began popping up in unexpected places, cameo roles in small projects, appearances with other rising stars, and even connections to bigger Hollywood names. Each step was carefully planned to push her further into the spotlight and keep her from being another forgotten one-hit wonder. For a while, it looked like the strategy might work. Followers grew, sponsorships rolled in, and Haley appeared more confident than ever. But the shift came at a cost. Her fans didn't sign up for a polished, camera-ready influencer. They fell in love with a girl who didn't filter herself, who seemed authentic and untouchable by the usual entertainment machine. Now that raw energy was being replaced with something manufactured, and cracks were beginning to show. The danger was subtle, but it was real. Viral fame can make someone a star overnight, but it doesn't guarantee loyalty. Without authenticity, that kind of fame can evaporate just as quickly as it arrived. And as Haley kept building her brand higher and higher, she was also standing on a weaker foundation than she realized. But instead of slowing down, she reached for something even bigger. She was about to step into a world where her charm and catchphrases didn't matter. A world run by speculation, greed, and unforgiving numbers. And it was here in the volatile universe of cryptocurrency, where her rise would transform into her downfall. By December 2024, Haley's fame was still strong, but her momentum was slipping. The catchphrase that made her famous was everywhere, but memes move on fast, and audiences were already chasing the next viral star. To keep her spotlight alive, Haley and her team needed something bigger, something that promised not just fame, but fortune. Without warning, Haley announced the launch of a meme coin called Hawkcoin, built on the Solana blockchain. Her pitch was simple. This wasn't just another joke token, it was her chance and her fans' chance to cash in on the wave of cryptomania. Backed by millions of loyal followers, the launch sent shockwaves across social media. The hype was immediate. Within hours, Hawkcoin's market value exploded to nearly $500 million. Fans who had once bought hats and t-shirts were now throwing their savings into a coin named after her viral catchphrase. For a brief, glittering moment, it looked like Haley had pulled off the impossible, transforming a meme into a financial empire. But the dream didn't last. Barely 20 minutes after launch, the coin's value collapsed. Hawkcoin crashed by more than 90%, wiping out millions in investor money. What had started as a frenzy of excitement turned into chaos. Fans who trusted her were suddenly left with nothing. And the backlash was immediate. Angry posts flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit. People accused Haley of promoting a pump-and-dump scheme, a tactic where insiders drive up the price of a token, cash out at the peak, and leave everyone else holding worthless bags. Blockchain data seemed to back up the claims, showing that a handful of wallets controlled the majority of Hawkcoin's supply from the start. One of those wallets reportedly pocketed more than $1 million in profit within hours. For her supporters, the crash felt like betrayal. These weren't seasoned crypto investors, many were regular fans who jumped in because they trusted the woman who made them laugh with a single viral phrase. Now they were demanding answers, and Haley didn't have them. Instead of celebrating her next big chapter, she was suddenly at the center of a scandal. Commentators across the internet ripped her apart. Prominent voices in the crypto world declared Hawkcoin one of the most disastrous launches they had ever seen. YouTubers, influencers, and critics tore through the details, exposing just how unprepared and reckless the project had been. The backlash wasn't just about money, it was about loyalty. Haley had built her career on the affection of ordinary people who saw her as authentic. Now many of those same people felt she had used their trust as leverage, not to entertain them but to sell them a financial disaster. The empire she had built in just 6 months was crumbling. And as angry fans demanded answers, the spotlight that once lifted her up was about to turn brutally against her. The launch of Hawkcoin was supposed to be Haley's bold leap into the world of business. Instead, it became the single biggest mistake of her short career. The collapse happened so fast that many fans didn't even understand what hit them. One moment, they were celebrating as the coin's market cap soared close to $500 million. Minutes later, their investments were nearly worthless. Screenshots of balances plunging into the red flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Discord. Some had lost small amounts, $200 here, $500 there, but others had poured in life savings, betting everything on the word of someone they thought they could trust. For those who had followed Haley since her viral moment, the betrayal was deeply personal. She wasn't some anonymous developer hiding behind code. She was the Tuah girl, the funny, down-to-earth woman who had gone viral for being unapologetically herself. Fans felt like she had cashed in on their affection, transforming their loyalty into a rug pull. Crypto veterans weren't sympathetic. Online, some mocked those who had bought in, saying it was obvious from the start. Others jeered that Haley was just another influencer cashing out on a gullible fan base. But behind the ridicule, the facts were damning. That's where CoffeeZilla came in. Known as YouTube's watchdog of shady financial schemes, he began digging into Hawkcoin's blockchain data. What he found confirmed the worst fears. Wallet analysis revealed that insiders controlled between 80 to 90% of the supply. The distribution wasn't even close to fair. One wallet alone had drained more than 1.3 millionaires in profit just hours after launch, while regular buyers were left with coins worth pennies. And this wasn't an accident. According to CoffeeZilla, every part of the project had been engineered to benefit those on the inside. Transaction fees had been set unusually high, as much as 15%, designed to squeeze investors even as they tried to buy or sell. The so-called treasury management of the coin was controlled entirely by one figure, a man who went by the alias Doc Hollywood, later revealed as Alex Larson Schultz. Behind the scenes, Schultz appeared to be the puppet master, calling the shots while Haley served as the smiling, charismatic face of the brand. He set the fees, managed the launch strategy, and stayed silent when the project imploded. To critics, it was clear he had built the trap. But Haley was the one who lured her fans into it. That distinction mattered. Was she complicit or just naive? But CoffeeZilla's videos told a different story. He compiled clips of Haley enthusiastically hyping Hawkcoin on her podcast, her social media posts urging fans to invest, and even leaked emails hinting that her financial involvement may have been much deeper than she let on. Instead of looking like a bystander, she looked like an active participant. The public wasn't convinced by her defense. Her refusal to take responsibility, combined with her insistence that she was only a victim, came across as evasive. Fans who had once adored her unfiltered honesty now felt like she was hiding behind excuses, and in the unforgiving court of internet opinion, perception is everything. Meanwhile, her management team, the Penthouse, went silent. The same company that had promised to make Haley America's sweetheart had no answers when the scandal hit. Their absence only fueled the narrative that she had been abandoned by the very people who helped orchestrate her downfall. By January 2025, Haley had virtually disappeared from public life. Her Instagram and X accounts went dark. The Tuah podcast stopped releasing new episodes. The girl who had once commanded millions of views with a single clip was suddenly a ghost online. In that silence, the narrative hardened. To her critics, she was guilty of betraying her fans. To her dwindling supporters, she might have been manipulated by powerful figures like Doc Hollywood. But either way, her reputation had taken a blow few could recover from. And when she finally tried to step back into the spotlight, hoping to explain herself, the internet wasn't ready to forgive, and certainly not ready to forget. When the dust from Hawkcoin finally began to settle, Haley was a ghost. For nearly 3 months, she avoided the spotlight completely. Her social media feeds, once flooded with photo shoots, partnerships, and clips of her podcast, went dark. Fans speculated endlessly. Some believed she was hiding to avoid lawsuits. Others thought federal investigations were underway, with whispers that the FBI and even the SEC had started sniffing around the failed token. The silence only deepened the mystery. For a celebrity who had once lived online, every day without a post felt like another nail in her public coffin. Then, in late March 2025, Haley re-emerged. She posted a glossy, well-produced video on Instagram, promising that the truth would soon come out. She insisted that she had survived the rumors and announced not one but two projects aimed at reclaiming her narrative, a documentary titled Tuah and the relaunch of her Tuah podcast, now under her own production company. The message was clear: this time she wouldn't be a pawn, she would be in charge. At first, the announcement generated buzz. Even her critics were curious. After all, scandals burn hot, but redemption arcs can draw even more attention. People wanted to hear what she had to say, whether to be convinced or to pick apart her excuses. Her first big swing came in the form of an interview with FaZe Banks, a YouTuber and entrepreneur known for his no-nonsense style. The setup was perfect for drama, Haley facing off with Banks and two crypto experts who weren't about to let her off easy. But what followed was a train wreck. Haley clung tightly to the narrative that she had been blindsided by her own team. She repeated that she had never understood cryptocurrency and was simply following orders. According to her, she hadn't profited from Hawkcoin at all. Aside from a flat marketing fee, she even broke down in tears, insisting she was the real victim of the scandal. The problem? The evidence didn't line up. Banks pressed her on leaked documents showing far larger payouts, suggesting she wasn't telling the full story. At one point, he even interrupted her emotional defense to lay out financial trails linking her name directly to insider wallets. The more she doubled down on her innocence, the more cornered she appeared. Viewers weren't buying it either. Clips of the interview spread across X and TikTok almost instantly, with fans mocking her tears as crocodile theatrics. One viral post summed up the reaction: she's crying for sympathy, not accountability. Then came the final blow. The interview mysteriously vanished from the internet shortly after recording. Haley's team reportedly requested its removal, but by then leaked clips were already circulating widely. To the public, the takedown wasn't just suspicious, it was confirmation that she was hiding something. On X, one fan wrote, "If you're innocent, why delete the receipts?" Despite the disaster, Haley wasn't ready to give up. In a desperate attempt to regain credibility, she secured a high-profile guest for her newly revived podcast, KSI, one of the internet's biggest names. It was a bold move. If handled well, the episode could have reignited her career and reframed her as more than a fading meme. But instead, it became another fiasco. From the very start of the interview, Haley and her co-host appeared out of their depth. Their questions were shallow and at times downright embarrassing. At one point, they even asked if KSI had created the FIFA video game, a blunder so absurd that KSI visibly laughed in disbelief. The lack of preparation was glaring, and the conversation dragged awkwardly for nearly an hour. KSI, normally charismatic and engaging, looked bored and uncomfortable. The energy that should have carried the episode was missing. By the end, what should have been a career-saving opportunity had turned into 45 minutes of cringe. When the episode aired, the reaction was brutal. The video racked up dislikes, with viewers mocking Haley's lack of professionalism. Comments across platforms slammed her as unprepared and desperate. She thought just flying to London and saying Hawkcoin would make her relevant again. One comment read. Another was harsher. "This is the first time I've seen KSI look this bored. She's finished." Every attempt to rebuild her image had only driven her reputation deeper into the ground. Haley wanted a redemption arc. What she got was a second collapse, one even more humiliating than the first. The KSI interview that was supposed to reignite her podcast only deepened the ridicule. Clips of her awkward questions became memes in their own right, a painful mirror of how far she had fallen from the effortless confidence of her viral moment. Instead of curiosity, the internet responded with mockery. Her podcast Tuah, once hyped as the next phase of her brand, quietly went dark. New episodes stopped appearing, and her attempt to position it as a legitimate media platform had all but collapsed. The documentary Tuah, teased as her opportunity to finally set the record straight, failed to gain traction. Promos generated little buzz, and whatever interest remained evaporated before the release. For a moment, Haley Welch had been one of the most recognizable names online, a factory worker turned cultural phenomenon in less than a week. But the same internet that made her famous chewed her up and moved on just as fast. What remains is the memory of her meteoric rise, the chaos of Hawkcoin, and the failed attempts at redemption that followed. Haley's story, once filled with promise, has now become a cautionary tale, a reminder of just how quickly viral fame can vanish, and how fragile it is when it isn't built on trust. Haley Welch's story isn't just about one viral star who lost her way, it's a blueprint for how internet fame really works in 2025. In the span of 6 months, she went from an anonymous factory worker in Tennessee to a household name with millions of fans, merchandise flying off shelves, and celebrities lining up to share her spotlight. But that same rocket-fueled rise exposed the dangers of chasing quick success without a solid foundation. The very thing that made her famous, raw authenticity, was the first thing she lost. Polished management, staged content, and forced branding turned her into a product instead of a person. And when she reached for something bigger, stepping into a world she didn't understand with Hawkcoin, the consequences were catastrophic. Her fans weren't just disappointed, they were financially devastated. From there, every attempt at redemption backfired. The documentary fizzled, the podcast stalled, the interviews with FaZe Banks and KSI, instead of restoring her image, highlighted her lack of accountability and preparation. By September 2025, the girl who once dominated TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube was already a fading memory. But Haley's story isn't only about her, it's about us, the audience. The internet rewards speed, shock, and spectacle, but it rarely rewards responsibility. We elevate people overnight, then act surprised when they aren't prepared to handle the weight of fame. We trust influencers with our attention, our loyalty, and sometimes even our money, only to watch many of them burn out or cash out. In the end, Haley Welch didn't just lose her career, she lost the trust that built it in the first place. And that's the true lesson here. Viral fame might be instant, but it isn't free. It demands honesty, accountability, and an ability to stay grounded when the world is watching. Without that, even the brightest star burns out fast. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to Stars and Hype so you don't miss what's coming next. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how things will continue in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care, and have a great day.